You are watching a fresh cut of meat sizzle over a hot grill, and it smells perfect. But have you ever wondered why that steak came from a cow instead of a lion? Why is it that we eat chickens and pigs, but almost never wolves, tigers, or sharks? This isn't just about cultural taboos or the danger of hunting a predator. It is actually a biological and evolutionary calculation that your body understood long before science could prove it. If you walk through a modern grocery store today, you are looking at the result of millions of years of selection pressure. Most people assume we don't eat carnivores simply because they are harder to catch or more dangerous to hunt. While there is some truth to that, the mystery goes much deeper into the very chemistry of life. There is a reason that almost no culture on Earth built a lasting tradition around eating top-tier predators. Underneath the surface of that beef or chicken breast lies a hidden map of survival. It is a map that dictates why we prefer herbivores and why your brain reacts with instinctive disgust at the idea of a wolf burger. To understand why, we have to look at the elegant and sometimes brutal laws of nature that govern everything we consume. Everything in our diet starts with the sun, which is the ultimate source of all energy in our food web. Plants are the primary producers, capturing solar energy and turning it into biomass through photosynthesis. When a deer eats those plants, it doesn't keep all that energy. It uses most of it just to stay alive, breathing, moving, and growing. This leads us to one of the most important rules in ecology, the 10% rule. On average, only about 10% of the energy from one level of the food chain is passed up to the next. If there are 1,000 units of energy in the grass, the deer only stores 100 units in its flesh. If a lion then eats that deer, it only captures 10 units. By the time you get to the top of the chain, you are essentially feeding on the leftovers of leftovers. This energy loss creates a massive efficiency problem for humans. Raising a carnivore for food is an economic nightmare. To produce just 1 pound of carnivore meat, you would first have to raise 10 pounds of herbivore meat, which itself required 100 pounds of grain. It is far more efficient to cut out the middleman and eat the herbivore directly. This is why poor populations historically ate very little meat, and why we domesticated docile, plant-eating animals like cows and sheep, instead of trying to herd a pack of bears. It's simply easier and cheaper to farm animals that eat what we can't, like grass, and turn it into something we can. But the energy math is only the first warning sign. There is a much more dangerous reason predators are rarely on the menu: biomagnification. While energy disappears as you move up the food chain, certain toxins do the opposite. They concentrate. Heavy metals like mercury, lead, and cadmium, along with persistent pollutants, enter the food chain at the very bottom. A small fish eats thousands of tiny organisms, absorbing a small dose of toxin from each. A larger predator then eats thousands of those small fish, concentrating all those tiny doses into one body. By the time you reach an apex predator, the concentration of these poisons can be millions of times higher than it was in the water or soil. We see the effects of this toxic buildup even in the animals we do occasionally eat. You've likely heard warnings about limiting your intake of tuna. Tuna is a large predatory fish, and because it sits high on the aquatic food chain, its mercury levels are high enough to be worth monitoring. Now, imagine eating a land predator that sat even higher, like a wolf or a mountain lion. The chemical load inside those animals is often extraordinary, making their meat a potential biological hazard rather than a healthy meal. Beyond the chemicals, predators are also living archives of parasites. Because they frequently eat raw flesh, they host organisms that have evolved to survive inside carnivores for millions of years. The most famous is trichinella, a roundworm that forms cysts in muscle tissue. If a human eats undercooked, infected meat, these larvae hatch and migrate into our own muscles, causing severe pain, fever, and even death.
Look at the real-world exceptions to see how these rules play out. In the southern United States, alligator is a prized delicacy, often described as tasting like a cross between chicken and fish. In Alaska, hunters still eat black and grizzly bear meat. However, these exceptions come with heavy conditions. Bear meat, for example, is famous for its unpredictable flavor. When a bear has been feeding on berries and roots, its meat is said to be delicious. But if that same bear has been eating a diet of fish, its flesh becomes oily and unappealing. Furthermore, anyone eating bear or alligator knows they must cook it to at least 160 degrees to kill off the trichinella and other parasites that are almost guaranteed to be there. We eat these animals only with caution, and usually because they sit just low enough on the chain to be manageable.
This leads us to the most surprising insight of all: the psychology of disgust. Researchers have found that humans have an instinctive aversion to the idea of eating carnivores that isn't just learned from culture. It appears in children across different societies who have had no contact with each other. Psychologist Paul Rosen found that we categorize predator meat as aversive at an almost pre-rational level. This is your ancestral memory speaking to you. Millions of years ago, your ancestors who felt no hesitation about eating a predator often died from the massive toxic load or the parasites carried inside. But the ancestors who felt a gut-level resistance, the ones who found the idea of a wolf steak unappetizing without even knowing why, they were the ones who survived. They passed that feeling down to you. Your disgust is a survival mechanism that was refined long before we understood what a toxin or a parasite even was.
In the end, the steak on your plate is a masterpiece of biological calculation. You didn't choose to eat cows, chickens, and pigs by accident. Our entire culinary tradition was shaped by a survival logic so ancient it predates language itself. We eat herbivores because they are the most efficient way to turn the sun's energy into fuel, and because they sit low enough on the food chain that their toxic burden is survivable. The animals at the top of the chain, the lions, the wolves, the eagles, are not just dangerous to hunt, they are dangerous to consume. Nature has built a system to keep you away from them, making the meat tough, stringy, and instinctively wrong to eat. We aren't just choosing what tastes good, we are following an invisible set of rules that kept our species alive for eons. Knowing this, would you ever consider trying meat from a top-tier predator if science could prove it was 100% free of toxins and parasites? Or does the idea still make your stomach turn just thinking about it? Let us know in the comments, and tell us which animal you think would be the most forbidden meal of all.